The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement, where we finally decided to start reviewing new movies after almost a month into being 2023. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be talking about some actually new movies this week, and then playing a little bit of a game show later on that's a tiny bit different than it usually is. And I'll start us off by talking about a movie I mentioned last week that I had seen and I really loved and adored, and that was Puss in Boots. So, Puss in Boots discovered that his passion for adventure has taken its toll when he learns that he has burnt through 8 of his 9 lives. Puss sets out on an epic journey to find the mythical last wish and restore his 9 lives. This movie was shockingly good, and when I was seeing reviews for it on TikTok, I was very suspicious, because I had heard of the original Puss in Boots movies that came out in like the early 2010s. I don't remember them being very good. I didn't look into them much after this, but I don't remember them being particularly good movies. But regardless, it seemed like a weird time to just bring back a random Shrek character and just give him his own movie. So naturally very skeptical of this. But I'm glad I did see it, because like I said, it was actually surprisingly good. It manages to capture like a lot of the fun and excitement that Puss in Boots had from Shrek, and create an interesting story revolving around almost a man dealing with his own mortality while also managing to be a very fun and creative movie. And there's a lot I liked about this movie, and I'm definitely not going to have time to get to all of it, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to do basically the 2 parts that I really liked the most, which was the cast and then the animation style. But a little more backstory onto the movie itself. So our whole cast is essentially going on this big adventure to try and find this magical wishing star in order to grant their deepest wishes, which we kind of find out as the journey goes on. There's a lot of side characters that are also hunting for this magical wishing star, and they have their own motivations. There's which I guess would be Puss in Boots' not sidekick but partner, Kitty Softpaws, who's also going there to try to get her own little wish. And it's kind of a fun way of exploring like how people deal with like the issues in their lives and like how they think it could be better when in reality they kind of have what they wanted the whole time. But to start off with the characters, everyone was really on point with this movie. I particularly loved Puss in Boots. He had, especially with how they set up his character. So to start the movie, we're at this random party at this big, like, huge mansion. You get the song from Puss in Boots, and he's singing about how he's the best, and he's the best thing that's ever existed on the face of this earth. He's the best adventurer out there. Nobody can stop him. And then out of nowhere, you see a bunch of these armed men and this guy in a powdered wig show up, and you find out this is actually some random governor's house that he's taken over. And Puss in Boots, being the outlaw, is basically on track to be arrested by this very same governor. So we have a fight sequence that evolves from this, where now he's singing about himself again, but he's also like fighting these people at the exact same time. And then out of nowhere, once we've seen him kind of beat all these people, this giant shows up that was kind of lured in by all the music and festivities that were happening around, and starts tearing this town apart. And so then we see Puss in Boots' tiny cat fighting this essentially 5-story tall giant with no fear, no, like, all bravado and just like, what's it called? The most cocky thing you could imagine. Just this tiny cat literally running up and down this massive giant, running across rooftops, getting punched, like, but the whole time he's not treating it like it's a big deal, because it doesn't really matter to him. Because all that really matters is that he is this amazing adventurer, and that there's all these stories that are told about him. In addition to that, he thinks he has all these lives at this point, so it doesn't really matter what he does. He can kind of just get away with being an idiot and not taking this fight very seriously. And we go through that whole sequence. He eventually defeats the giant, but unfortunately dies. And that kind of sets us along our way into the movie, where we go to this doctor. Doctor tells him, hey, dude, you're out of lives now. You got to be careful. Like, you can't just keep doing this. And we get more to that as we go through the movie. But I love it as an introduction to this character, because it sets him up perfectly. He's this cocky, like, I guess, badass hero who also overestimates himself quite a bit. And he's only living for this adventure and this, like, kind of, what's it called? This adventure to fulfill his legacy, essentially, and live out the best life possible. So that's who we're starting with, and we get some more development of that as we go through the movie. And I love how he changes. Because once he finds out this is his last life, that's when he's confronted by this bounty hunter, who I'll talk about in a little bit. He shows up, tries to just murder Puss in Boots right on the spot. And Puss is like, wait a second, I can't actually handle this. Like, I'm going to die if I fight this guy. And I don't get to come back after that. Like, I don't know what happens after I die. I'm just going to get out of here. Flees, lives off as like a house cat for a bit, which is completely wild. You kind of see him have this fall from grace until eventually he's like, no, this is not the Puss in Boots who I am. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get what I deserve, which is his lives back. And so we follow him along that. And we see more development because he's turning from this character who's really cocky, really brave, really thinks he is the best thing, that he's the hottest shit that's ever been shat. And then he's developing more into this person who's like kind of realizing that maybe there's more to life than just this adventure that he's been seeking. Like maybe there's an emptiness he's trying to fill. And I love that. It was very fun to watch on screen, especially because I was expecting Puss in Boots to be very annoying, and he was not. He was a very fun character to watch on screen. And as a result, it made it a lot more fun to watch him develop and grow as a person. Another character I enjoyed a lot, and this was a character I also thought would be even more annoying, because the second I saw him introduced, he fell into that category of the annoying side character who never stops talking, and usually that doesn't do it for me. But then we have Pero. I forgot to also mention, Puss in Boots is played by Antonio Banderas, and he's perfect. I assume he did the original Puss in Boots, but absolutely fantastic. Then we have Pero, played by Harvey Guillen, who's kind of like, the best way to describe it, I guess, is therapy dog. That's kind of his role in the movie, because that's what he aspires to be. So we get essentially the classic, like, your friend is a psychology major kid. Like, he's constantly talking, constantly making jokes, constantly, very much so has his head in the clouds kind of person. And you expect they're going to really just, like, it's going to wear on you eventually, and you're going to get really sick and tired of this character. But I think they do a good job of making Puss in Boots and his partner, Kitty Softpaws, be kind of like these angsty, like, very macho characters that Pero is a good contrast to them. He kind of gives us, like, he plays on that comic relief, but he also gives us just, like, another character to empathize with and think about. Also, somebody who is the exact opposite of Puss in Boots. Does not really care about him, like, his character himself at all that much. He's very worried about the people around him and, like, very interested in making people feel better. So a character that I thought was going to be very annoying, but actually ended up being very nice. So I'll give him props for that. It's very welcome relief to some of the heaviness that comes to this movie. And the last character I want to talk about, who honestly might be one of my favorite Disney villains, because he goes really hard, is the bounty hunter, played by Wagner Moura. He is essentially what I said. He's a bounty hunter trying to hunt and kill Puss in Boots. What makes him really fun and really interesting is that he is better than Puss in Boots in every way, shape, and form. Because we see, like, Puss in Boots at the beginning. He's a character that's got bravado, but he can back it up to a degree. The bounty hunter puts him to shame. He just immediately, like, when he first shows up, he immediately takes Puss in Boots out without like, breaking a sweat. Which sets him up as this really horrifying villain that's always tracking Puss in Boots down. He's always this, like, really menacing presence that's not, like, omnipresent throughout the entire movie, but when he shows up, you really know that he's there and that he's always stalking and following Puss in Boots. And they play this up really well by giving him this almost haunting whistle theme. It feels like because that's how he's introduced first. You hear this very haunting whistle, and then you turn, he's there. Didn't see him come in, didn't see anything happen. He just appears. And that's how you know he's around for the rest of the movie, because you'll see Puss in Boots doing something, and then out of the blue, there'll be a pause, a beat of some kind, and you'll hear the whistle, and you'll see him turn, having almost a panic attack because he knows the bounty hunter is there. And it works really well because this bounty hunter is also taunting him throughout the movie. He's always, like, on his tail, always, like, trying to one-up Puss in Boots in some way, shape, or form. So in overall, a really entertaining and terrifying villain. I loved him. This is, like, the perfect villain for this kind of movie, where it's just always somebody who's on their tail who doesn't want what Puss in Boots wants. He's in this for his own thing that's completely separate from him. But still revolving around the main character himself. So major props to Pixar for this, because that bounty hunter character is fantastic. Honestly, I'd recommend the movie just based off him alone. It might have been DreamWorks. I might have gotten it wrong, but that's on me. And then the other thing I want to talk about real quick is the animation style, because they did an amazing job of incorporating really good looking stylized 3D, which I generally will have problems with sometimes with 3D animation because it never looks right. It will usually end up falling into the uncanny valley. It make me feel really uncomfortable watching it. So it's never my preferred choice, but this had a really good style to it where it felt more cartoony. So it was more acceptable to me at least. And mixing that with like almost into the Spider-Verse, like frame stuttering, like animation for the fights, which I think help accent the fights really well. Because I mean, essentially it feels like everything has more weight to it as a result of that. Like, I don't know how to describe it further than that, but if you've seen Into the Spider-Verse, you know what I'm talking about. And I love how these two styles meld really well together. Like, they never feel out of place. Especially because there's never really a transition that happens. It almost immediately goes from, we're going in the 3D style to 2D animation fight, let's go. So major props on that front too, because this was really cool. I also loved all the anime influences in the film, which I think might be why I really appreciated the fight sequences, because it felt like they took a lot from various styles of Japanese animation, specifically Attack on Titan, which I was not expecting. Especially if you've seen the show. There's a lot of sections in this movie that feel like they were pulled straight from Attack on Titan, which I thought was a cool nod, and it really helped. It really helped make these fights feel different from regular like American cartoon fights. I also loved how the fights themselves were taken kind of seriously, even if the characters on screen were joking throughout it. Because I feel like that's a problem that a lot of American animation has, where like you'll get like a cool fight, but then like you'll see in the corner two characters like doing this to each other or something. Where there's like a joke. It's like they can't pause without a joke happening somewhere on screen. This felt a lot different in that regard, where there were clearly still quips and stuff going on, but the fight never really stopped like that. Like we never had a stop happen in the background. It's always the fight is continuing, and it feels like everyone's going very hard on each other. And yeah, I just really loved that. There's so much I would love to talk about with this movie. I love the heavy Spanish influence, which I felt like was a breath of fresh air, because I don't really see that. I don't really see that kind of media, especially in American animation. The music was absolutely amazing. I could go into that, but it was also a very, very much so a breath of fresh air. There were so many excellent side characters in this movie, especially because they don't really reuse a lot of the old Shrek characters. Essentially, they use new fairy tale characters, which were all excellent, especially with how they were all introduced. They felt like they fit into the world very well, while also, living up to their fairy tale likeness, which was very good. I love that. I love the use of a map as a storytelling device, and that's specifically referencing that there's a map that they get that leads to this wishing star. However, whoever is holding the map will change how the journey takes place. So for instance, if the dog takes a hold of it, the journey is like nice and easy because there's nothing really weighing on his mind. He's kind of free of guilt and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if somebody like Puss in Boots takes it, the journey becomes incredibly difficult because he's led a difficult light. There's a lot of ghosts in it. There's a lot of skeletons in his closet, that kind of thing. So that, I could go on about that. It was very good. And the whole end of the movie is just really cool. Just really cool fight sequence. So overall, I was not expecting this to go like absolutely amazing. And I know it's only the start of the year, but I immediately want to see this movie again because it was just really cool. It was very fun, which I don't think is something I've emphasized enough. It was a very fun movie to watch. It felt like one of those movies where it's an adult film, but you could bring your kids to it kind of vibe. Where like this definitely feels like it was made more for kids, but like I think as an adult, I really enjoyed this because everything was so well done. It didn't really feel like a pandering kids movie. So yeah, I would definitely recommend Puss in Boots. If you have a chance to watch it, go see it. This movie is fantastic, and there is a reference to a potential future Shrek movies at the end of it. So maybe we'll get more of this in the future.
Well, I've been so busy because I'm finishing up with school, so I haven't really gone out and seen any movies recently. But I watch streaming services a lot, and during my downtime, I decided to watch That 90s Show, which is the spinoff of That 70s Show, which I guess they tried to do like after That 70s Show ended, or like close to the ending of That 70s Show, when they did that 80s show, and I guess that it did not do well in critics and everything. So I was kind of surprised that that Netflix decided to come out with this show. But it's now 1995. Leia Foreman, which is visiting her grandparents for the summer, where she bonds with a new generation of Point Place, Wisconsin kids under the watchful eye of Kitty and the stern glare of Red. And so the main character's name is Leia. And if you know anything about that 70s show, Eric Foreman is a huge Star Wars nerd. So like when she got introduced immediately as Leia, I was like, okay, like who agreed to this? Like what parent in their right mind would have agreed to something like that? But okay, whatever. And I will say the show is okay. That 70s show is obviously better than this. Because the best part about this show is the characters from that 70s show. like the new kids, the new teenagers, they're all like the focal point of this season and this new show. But like you get like little like appearances by Foreman and Donna and Fez and was it Ashton Kutcher's character Kelso and Mila Kunis's character show up for like not even a minute or 2 minutes. But the best part about the show is Kitty and Red, like the grandparents, because they feel like the exact same as they were back in like 2000s when they were doing this show or the original show. That being said, a lot of the stuff that they've said back in the original show probably can't be really said today in today's day and age.
Oh boy.
Just because it's a different time frame, so there's less of that kind of stuff. But I don't know, like the new cast, the new kids, the new teenagers, there's 6 of them like there was in the original. And they all represent one of the original 6 characters, like very heavily.
It's not just like they're not like breaking new ground. It just feels like they're trying to do the same thing again.
They're trying to just rehash this. Like Leia is definitely Eric, and there's and it's funny too because like there's some characters that you would think would be one way, but they're actually another, like a different way. So like the new next door neighbor is a girl and her brother, and her brother is very much the idiot of the group, like Kelso was, and then his sister is very much like the Hyde of the group, or is like the take no prisoners, like I don't really care what you think kind of attitude. And then you have the other 3, which are very similar to the Fez and is it Jackie and Donna, the Donna character. So I don't know. It was just kind of like it was only 8 episodes, and they're only like 9 episodes, and they're only like half an hour in length. So it was just like it was pretty easy to watch, like to go from one episode to another. But like I said, the best part about the show is not the new characters. It's the old characters. Like even Bob shows up at one point in time. And that was like a funny part of the show about like how Red's trying to one up Bob with his birthday present to their granddaughter, which was, I don't know. I enjoyed pieces of it, I guess. And it's free to watch if you have Netflix. So check it out if you want. I mean, I usually give things an episode or 2. And if I can sit through an episode or 2 without being like, oh, no, then, I'll sit and watch the rest of it. So I got through like a couple episodes and I was like, oh, okay. Like, Like, I'll finish it. I mean, I'm only 2 episodes in, and there's only 7 episodes left. So like, why not? So,
It's always sad to me when these shows like just never have a chance to build their own identity, especially with like reboots like this. And I know the reason why. It's probably because some executive somewhere was like, if we do something new, no one will watch it.
Oh, and that's the exact.
It's still sad.
They
like,
do a lot, like, and that's the thing about like reboots too. Is like, this day and age, there's a lot of stuff being like rebooted. Yeah. And like, I even heard a rumor that they were gonna reboot Harry Potter, and Harry Potter hadn't even been out for that long. Like Harry Potter came out in what, 1999 or something. Like the original. Like that's only been 20 years. Like, you're not like just over 20 years. So I don't know. It's that whole reboot culture where it's like Hollywood can't really find new things to get people to watch. But then you go back to like what we were talking about a couple weeks ago about like the best movies of the year, and 2 of mine were reboots, or like not a reboot but like a sequel that was like a late sequel, like in Top Gun Maverick, and that was like one of the best movies of last year. So like it works sometimes.
Yeah, I just think you have to have more to it than just we're just going to do the same movie again.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, from what I've heard of Top Gun Maverick, it wasn't that it was just the exact same movie again. They did something new with it. They went in a different direction with it, which is what made it interesting and refreshing to watch. But, and like going back to what you said about there being so many reboots this day, is like, you think you'd want to do something different. So that way you'll give people a reason to, watch your show, because we have so many of these new reboots. Like, you're not going to watch all of them, especially if you find out it's like kind of mid. Like, there's no reason to just keep watching it.
Yep.
It's weird.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. Is what it is, I suppose. But speaking of doing some new stuff, let's get to everyone's favorite game show, Pilot Wings.
Is it gonna get a new name?
Yeah, so I got to think about what I'm doing with this. So I want to try some new stuff, given that it's the new year, and I was getting a little bit tired of doing the old one. So I'm gonna try out a couple of new games the next few weeks, see if I can come up with something that like really sparks joy, or maybe I'll just have like a rotation of new stuff to try out. So that way it keeps things interesting. So what I'm gonna do for this one is this is a game of guessing which. I'll explain a little bit more. I'll get into it. So I'm going to give you 3 movies, essentially. It's up to you to guess which of the 3 movies I give you has the greatest disparity between audience and critic scores based on Rotten Tomatoes. So I'm talking about movies that have like a really high critic score, but a really low audience score, or the opposite. A really high audience score and a low critic score. And so like I've included some examples here. So the examples I used were Nope versus The Northman. So in this case, Nope got an 86% score from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. It also got a 69% audience score, meaning there's a disparity of about 17% or whatever. The Northman got an 89 from critics, but got a 64 from audiences. So that means there's a greater disparity by 25%. So that one would be the winner in that case. So I'm going to give you 3 movies that you've seen, so you have some bearing on how this is going to go. I'm going to want you to see if you can figure out which one has the greatest disparity between audience and critic score. First one we're going to start off with is Jurassic World Dominion. So 4 years after the destruction of Isla Nublar, dinosaurs now live and hunt alongside humans all over the world. This fragile balance will reshape the future and determine once and for all whether human beings are to remain apex predators on a planet they now share with history's most fearsome creatures. The second one, which I know you definitely loved, was Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. Professor Albus Dumbledore knows the powerful dark wizard Gellert Grindelwald is moving to seize control of the wizarding world. Unable to stop him alone, he entrusts Magizoologist Newt Scamander to lead an intrepid team of wizards and witches. They soon encounter an array of old and new beasts as they clash with Grindelwald's growing legion of followers. And 3, another movie that I know you loved, Moonfall. The world stands on the brink of annihilation when a mysterious force knocks the moon from its orbit and sends it hurtling towards a collision course with Earth. With only weeks before impact, NASA executive Jocinda Jo Fowler teams up with a man from her past and a conspiracy theorist for an impossible mission into space to save humanity. So, Andrew, out of those 3 movies, which one do you think had the greatest disparity between audience and critic score?
So, um, I've seen the audience and the critic scores for 2 of these. Now I don't remember what they were. Remember we were talking about it last week.
Yeah.
With Fantastic Beasts and Moonfall, because they were both in our bottom 5 movies of the year. So I've seen those, but I don't remember exactly what they were.
I figured you wouldn't.
Yeah. The other one that's throwing me off is Jurassic World. So I kind of have to piece together, like, how would the critics have liked the movie versus how the audience would have liked the movie.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take Jurassic World Dominion out completely, because I'm fairly confident that both critics and audiences were pretty low on that movie. Now, critics could have been much lower on it than audience were, but I'm fairly confident that the audience was fairly low. Now, Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore, I remember that one being high as an audience score, which blew my mind. And then Moonfall, I remember also being a high audience score because we talked about it, because you couldn't believe how high it was.
Yeah.
Now, I'm pretty sure Moonfall was high, but not too high audience score. And the critic score was also fairly middling. So that being said, with Jurassic World Dominion being low on both ends, Moonfall being kind of like mid-tier on both ends, I think I'm going to go with Fantastic Beasts: Secrets of Dumbledore as the highest disparity between the two, because I fairly remember the audience score being very high, like 70s, 80s, and the critic score being middling.
Okay. Interesting. All right, so we'll do a little reveal now, see where they're all at. So Moonfall had an audience score of 70%, but had a critic score of 36%, meaning there's a 34% disparity.
That's much lower.
That was the third.
Than I thought it was.
Fantastic.
Oh, that was third?
That was third, I believe. Fantastic Beasts had a critic score of 46% and had an audience score of 83%.
Yeah, I remember that being
about a 37% disparity between the two.
Okay.
That was second. Jurassic World had a critic score of 29% and an audience score of 77%.
That
which
should
means
not
a disparity
be
of
that high.
about 50%, really 48%, but yeah.
Dang.
So Jurassic World Dominion was the one that had the greatest disparity between all of them, which I thought was wild.
That is wild, because that should not have a high audience score. And I think the only reason that movie has a high audience score is because they brought back all the old characters. We just talked about this. We just talked about this.
Idea.
It's the reboot. It's the reboot stuff. You bring back the old characters and it boosts the audience rating because you get to see all the old school characters that you grew up knowing. That's exactly why that movie has a better audience score.
Ooh, the Galaxy frame play. Yeah.
It brought it all back together.
Yeah, so Jurassic World, unfortunately, didn't get it on this one. I think in the future, if I do this one again, I'm also going to include some reviews, because I feel like that would be funny to get for some of these.
Yeah, like a good review and a bad review.
Yeah, I'll get a good review and a bad review or something. We'll see what it
That's
is.
good.
But
Instead of doing a description, that's what you should do.
Yeah.
A good review and a bad review.
I think that would work a bit better.
Yeah.
I'll do that next week. We'll see how that plays out. I'm also thinking of doing maybe just 2 movies, but I'm not sure if that's like too little choices.
Yeah.
I feel like 3 like gives you some room to work with. But yeah, that was Pilot Wings for this week. I'll think of a name at some point in the future and hopefully attach it to whatever this game is supposed to be. But on that note, let's forget about some of these bad movies and check out some of the new ones that are coming out in the coming weeks. And I know you wanted to see Knock at the Cabin, and I keep seeing trailers for this on TikTok, and I just don't know how to feel about it, especially because it's an M. Night Shyamalan movie after like he hasn't been done anything in so. Actually, that's not true. He's done stuff recently. I forget that he did the what's it called, the Unbreakable sequels. I completely forget he does that. Yeah.
He also did something else recently too.
Did he?
I think.
Did he do?
Old.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Which was awesome. I love that movie. That movie's so good. Just because, as everybody else knows, like probably that they listen, I love movies that have like twist endings, like that are good twist endings, not like real crap twist endings like The Village. Or what's the other one that he did that had a bad twist ending?
There's a bunch.
No, so I actually like The Happening. I'm one of those people.
Oh, was that the Matt Damon one with like the
Mark
heirs?
Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg. That's it.
And the plants are killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually like that movie because I kind of I find the premise of that really funny. But yeah, no, he did Old, and then he did Glass. So yeah, he does like a movie every couple of years.
Yeah.
So this one he's got is A Knock at the Cabin, which looks awesome. And like you said, I see it on TikTok all the time.
Yeah.
And it looks so good. Like, it's got Dave Bautista in it. I love Dave Bautista.
Dave Bautista is one of those weird actors for me where sometimes he's really good and sometimes he's just like all over the place.
Well, see, he's one of those WWE wrestler actors,
Yeah.
like The Rock. But
That's
he
part of
actually,
it.
in an interview, he actually said, he's like, I'm not trying to be like The Rock. I'm not trying to be like a Hollywood star. I want to be an actor.
And you can tell in his performances that he is definitely actually acting, whereas The Rock is just being The Rock.
A star, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll give him props. I do like that about him. He's just kind of, sometimes it just doesn't work. And maybe it's just the movies that he's in. Maybe it's the direction he's given. Sometimes it just works for me. This looks like a case where it could work. So we'll see. That's a weird one. If you like it, I might check that one out. Cause
I'm probably gonna review that this week. The next time we do it. And then you got that 80 for Brady
such
coming
a
out.
Stupid movie. Oh my god. Yeah. I don't understand how they're making a movie out of this. Like, is it really that much of a story to it? Like,
apparently it's a true story.
But like, how much of a true story is it?
I don't know how much they're gonna like flub on it, or like that they're gonna do for Hollywood, but like, I don't know. I'm probably not gonna watch it. I'll probably see the reviews and like look up how much of it is actually a true story.
Yeah, if I'm really bored, I might check it out because that seems like a really bored movie to watch. But yeah, besides that, I don't even know why I'd see it.
No, my next big movie is Ant-Man in 2 weeks.
Oh God, when is that?
17th.
Oh, it's only 2 weeks. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thought that was further away.
Nope. Oh, and there's a movie coming out in February. If we're talking about February movies, because it's almost February, there's a movie that you might like that I actually saw on TikTok first. It's called, and this is actually a true story too, kind of. It's called Cocaine Bear.
I've seen trailers for this. I will be reviewing it just because it looks really stupid.
So
I know I probably won't like it, but I'm gonna review it.
So it is I looked it up. It is a true story about a bear who does a lot of cocaine, but he doesn't go on a rampage.
No, they play it up quite a bit.
They play it up a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The original story is not that at all. It's
Ray Liotta. It's Ray Liotta's last movie, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. I can't believe it's Cocaine Bear. Of all movies.
Of all movies.
Of all movies, yeah. No, I'll probably be talking about The Last of Us show in the coming weeks because I'm started watching that right now, and that is really solid. But we shall see. And on that note, I think we'll close it out for this week. Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything I want to plug either. So, thank you for watching The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we will see y'all next time. Thank you for listening.